Hola a todos. Hoy vamos a estar analizando los verbos de cambio en español. Today we're going to be analyzing the verbs of change in Spanish. As you see, the translation is verbos de cambio. Okay? Now, what you will notice is that the general translation of these verbs is to become, and they're used to talk about changes. These changes can be gradual or sudden, temporary or long-lasting, positive or negative, okay? But of course, each verb will be used in a different context, and we're going to analyze all these different contexts. To be specific, there are 6 verbs that we use to talk about changes, right? So let's see what we are talking about. The first verb we are going to look at is ponerse. Ponerse is used with sudden or temporary changes in physical or emotional states. These changes are involuntary, which means that they are not done consciously, which means that they are a reaction that you cannot really control. Okay? So we use ponerse followed by an adjective, right? Laura se puso feliz cuando vio las noticias. Laura was happy when she saw the news. Now you see that I have the verb to be, right? Now, yes, even though this is translated as was in this case, we're talking about a change in state. It would sound awkward to say Laura became happy, right? She was happy, but we're not talking about a state that she was in before. Because don't forget, this event, right, the news, made her happy, okay? So even though in English, we may have used the verb to be, when we put this in Spanish, we would have to put it, we would have to use ponerse, because we're talking about a response to a situation, right? An emotional reaction or response, right? Because sometimes, translations don't always fit, right? So, Laura se puso feliz cuando vio las noticias. We can also use ponerse to talk about physical state. So this would be an emotional state. And of course, it will be temporary, because it just happened because of the news. It was sudden, and it will be fleeting. Well, let me not say fleeting, but it will not last a very long time. Probably when the news is over, she'll probably be, I guess, she could be depressed, who knows, but she'll go back to how she was feeling prior to seeing the news, right? Los chicos se pusieron gordos porque comieron mucho durante sus vacaciones. The boys became fat because they ate a lot during their vacation. So we're talking about a change in physical state, right? So they put on weight, right? Because they ate a lot during their vacation. So notice that with ponerse followed by an adjective, we're talking about a sudden change as a result of an event. And it's either a change in the physical state, as we see here in gordos, or an emotional state, as we see here in feliz, right? So if something sparks a reaction or a response that is emotional or physical, we use ponerse. All right? Secondly, convertirse en is used with radical or important changes. These changes can be voluntary or based on circumstances. And with convertirse en, we're going to use nouns, right? Ana se convirtió en abogada cuando se mudó a España. Anna became a lawyer when she moved to Spain. That could be voluntary. She decided to become a lawyer when she moved to another country, right? But convertirse en is used with radical changes, important, such as a career change. So this would be an example of a career change, which is very important, an important change in someone's life, right? Los niños se convierten en adultos a la edad de 18. Children become adults at the age of 18. Now, again, this is an important change in life. You go from being a child to an adult at the age of 18. Children become adults, right? So we can also think of convertirse as transformarse en. That would be another way to express this idea. Think of transform. So children transform into adults. So you see, transform means that this change is radical. It is great. It is noteworthy. So any change that is very much noteworthy, right? That's very noteworthy, right? We use convertirse en, and it is followed by nouns, right? Also, if we use convertirse a, that means to convert to a religion, right? So, for example, Juan se convirtió al cristianismo, right? Juan converted to Christianity, you know, just for an example, right? Convertirse a followed by a religion means to convert to that particular religion, and convertirse en followed by a noun means to transform into whatever, right? So this is used to talk about important or radical changes in someone's life, such as a career change, for example, right? So voluntary and involuntary are based on circumstances. So this would be based on circumstances, the second example, whereas the first would be based on choice, because voluntary, you choose to become a lawyer, right? 3. Llegar a ser is used when someone has worked to become somebody after much effort, and this is positive. So, of course, we're not talking about a narco traficante, drug trafficker, or anything like that. We're talking about something positive. Llegar a ser followed by a noun is going to also translate as become, but it is used when we are talking about becoming someone, or someone maybe important after we've worked our butts off to achieve that. This is why we have to specify after much effort. So you've been working at this. You don't just become this overnight. You've worked your way to becoming this, right? Or you worked your way to become this. So, llegué a ser el mejor profesor después de estudiar durante mucho tiempo. I became the best teacher after studying for a long time. Yep. So if you want to specify that a lot of effort went into that endeavor or that achievement, we use llegar a ser. So después de estudiar durante mucho tiempo, that signifies or that illustrates my effort, right? Por fin, ella llegó a ser la presidenta. Finally, she became the president. Por fin would obviously suggest that it was after a long time, maybe a struggle, hardship, challenges, etc. but she finally got there, and she is now president. All right? So these are 3 verbs of change in Spanish, and we have 3 more to analyze. So let's get to them. Okay, so we move on to the 4th verb, which is volverse. It is used with changes in circumstances, physical or personality. The change can be gradual or sudden, and they are usually negative and long-lasting. Volverse can be used or can be followed by an adjective or a noun. So when we're talking about things, we are just talking about a change that is long-lasting, and this is a physical change. So el cielo se volvió más oscuro. The sky became darker. El cielo se volvió más oscuro. La mujer se volvió egoísta después de su renuncia. The woman became selfish after her resignation. So when we are talking about persons and we use volverse, we're talking about a change in personality. Of course, a negative trait, right? That was acquired. I said that it can be followed by an adjective or a noun. In these examples, you would see that the verb volverse was followed by an adjective. So let's use an example with a noun. La mujer se volvió una, or no, let's just not use mujer, let's change the subject. Pablo se volvió un egoísta. Pablo became a selfish person, right? Pablo se volvió un egoísta. So that's an example of it followed by a noun, right? No, that is volverse. Quedarse is used to describe results of an event, normally negative and involuntary. Alright? So when we use quedarse followed by an adjective, that is a response to a situation, right? And this is usually negative. So a negative outcome would necessitate the use of quedarse. Alright? So quedarse followed by adjective. Después del choque, Roberto se quedó ciego. After the crash, Roberto was blind. Once again, it doesn't translate as become in this context, but it carries that meaning. Alright? Roberto was blind. So as a result of the crash, he ended up being blind. Right? So we usually use quedarse when we are talking about the effects of the physical effects of some sort of trauma, like this, for example, right? So this can be a permanent permanent effect, or it can be temporary. This would be an example of a permanent effect. So he's blind, he will never go back to how he was before, right? But with this one, me quedé sorprendido al ver a mi novia. I was surprised when I saw my girlfriend. That sorprendido will be temporary. That's just in the moment. That's a response to seeing my girlfriend. Right? So quedarse followed by an adjective is normally negative, but in this case, this is not really negative. But normally it is negative. It is an involuntary response, and it talks about the state that a person is left in. Usually, if we're talking about long term, it talks about physical states, and if it's short term, it may just be emotional states, right? Muy bien. It is worth noting that we can also use quedarse with nouns, but we would change the preposition. quedarse sin is like to be left without. So, for example, Carlos se quedó sin dinero, right? Carlos was left without money or with no money. He was left without money based on something that happened. Maybe he was gambling, maybe he got robbed, but that was the result, right? Yes, 6. And once again, it doesn't translate as become, but it carries that same meaning or sense. 6. Hacerse is used with changes in ideology, profession, nationality, or socio-economic status. So those represent the voluntary changes, right? But we can also talk about natural changes, but we'll get to that afterwards. So hacerse is followed by an adjective or a noun. Ana se hizo venezolana. Ana became Venezuelan. So that's a change in nationality. She wanted that, so she got that. All right, another example of a voluntary change that deals with one of these, I can say, me hice piloto. Okay, I became a pilot. That's a choice that I have made. Yeah, or me hice rico. I became rich. Right? I hope, well, that's past tense, but yeah. Or I would say quiero hacer, well, I could say ser rico, but that's besides the point. Yeah. Now when we come to natural changes, right? So these are changes that happen based on progression or just nature, right? Me estoy haciendo mayor. I am becoming older. You can't prevent that. As long as you're alive, you will age. So that's just a natural change, right? A las 7 de la noche se hace de noche. De noche, right. At 7 p.m., it gets dark. So it gets dark at 7 p.m. As the expression is hacerse de noche, it gets dark. So hacerse talks about voluntary changes in these particular areas: ideology, profession, nationality, socioeconomic status. Voluntary changes, right, when it comes to those things. And then natural changes when we're talking about other, well, just nature. It can't, yeah, there's no other way to put it, right? All right, eso es todo por hoy. Espero que ustedes hayan entendido las diferencias entre esos verbos de cambio. Muchas gracias por ver mis videos como siempre y hasta la vista.